Okay, in this video we're going to show how to reduce mid-corner steering without affecting any other of the handling characteristics that we have established that we're already happy with. So what I've got up here is the T4 again. Looking at the front and rear suspension and the suspension properties, everything looks pretty good here. We've got our front roll center slightly lower than the rear. Our ride stiffness and ride frequencies look good. Roll stiffness, everything looks pretty good here. So we don't really want to change any of this if we can avoid it, because we're happy. This is basically what gives you your weight balance and how responsive the chassis is. So we don't really want to change any of this. All we want to try and do is affect our amount of grip that we have at mid corner. So with this new steering module that is in development right now, we now have caster effects included, and we also have steer angle effects included. As you see, we can wiggle this around and do wonderful things with it, but I'm not even going to get into that now because that's beyond what I'm trying to show here. So let's just try to adjust our front suspension and see what we can do to affect that mid-corner steering. So we're going to do all this in the dynamics page. So right now what we've got is the front suspension is selected. We've got 0 steering angle on here. We'll change that in a second. But I just want to show here that this is our camber versus lateral G graph. So this is the camber of the outside wheel. And what this represents is as the chassis rolls with 0 steer angle, this is the kind of camber change you're going to see on the outside wheel with the way the chassis is set up right now. The blue line is what the inside wheel would see. So obviously we're not going to be going through a corner with no steering angle, so let's put, say it's a medium corner. So let's put 10 degrees of steering angle on it. And so now you can see the program's recalculated, and now it's showing us what the camber angles are with that 10 degrees of steering angle on. So the reason it's changed is because of the caster that we have. We have 4 degrees of caster in this. So if you just have your car sitting on the bench and you turn your front outside wheel and get 10 degrees of steering on it, you're going to have about 1.9 degrees of camber on that. So it's changed from 1.5 to 1.9. So just want you to pay attention to this, because we're going to look at what happens to the slope of this line, the angle of this line, and also how it moves up and down. So what we're going to be concerned with is we want to try and get rid of steering out here, out at the high G level. So right now at 2 G's we've got about -1 or -0.37 degrees of camber. So we want to try and reduce this number. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the front suspension to do that. So we know if we raise this up, we're going to reduce camber gain. So I just added 2 millimeters of shims underneath the upper ball stud. So now we've got our camber gain down to almost 0, which should be good. Unfortunately, in doing that, we've raised or lowered our roll center. So we want to try and fix that. So what we can do here is we can raise our inner hinge pin. So if we raise our inner hinge pin, now we've gone a little too far with our roll center, but we've also gained back camber gain. So now let's just lengthen our camber, upper camber length, and see if we can get back to where we want to be. Okay, we're pretty close. We've lost some camber gain. We've raised our roll center up a little bit, but we still want a little bit more. So we could either add a 0.5 millimeter shim out here, or we could, I don't have that built into the setup of this model, but we could also just lower the outer one 0.5 millimeter. So let's lower the outer. So there. So now our roll center is pretty much exactly where it was, within 1/10 of a millimeter, which really you don't want to get that fine with this. And our camber gain's near 0. So we've achieved what we've tried to achieve here as far as that. So let's see what it's done to our camber. So I'm going to apply that. Oops. Just close that out. So now it's already recalculated and regraphed everything. So what I want to do is I want to see where we are out here. So we were at minus 0.37. Now we're at minus 0.23. So we've lost 0.14 of a degree of camber. So now we're closer to zero, so we should have less grip because we have less camber out at the high G level. But remember at the start here, we were at minus 1.9 out here. We haven't changed that. So all we've done is we've changed the slope of the line. Okay, we haven't affected the geometry at the lower end of the scale. It just gradually increases as you go up the line. So the other way we could do this is, I'm just going to reset everything back. So now we're back to where our base setup was. What we can do is we can change our caster angle. So if we go to a 2-degree caster angle, save that, go back to dynamics, and that. So we've got, okay, so now our setup, suspension setup is where it was originally. We haven't changed anything there. We still have this camber gain. Our roll center is at 4.4 again. And we've just changed our caster angle from 4 degrees down to 2 degrees. So now at 0, or near 0, if I can get there, we're at minus 1.7. So we've basically moved this entire line up. Up at the top end here, we're down at minus 0.15, so that's good. That's what we were trying to achieve. We've now lost about 0.2 of a degree of camber, but we've lost that all the way along the entire range. So basically what changing your caster block does is it moves this line up and down. Changing your camber gain changes the slope of this line. So if you don't want to affect your handling and stuff down at this end, and you need a change up at that end, you use your camber gain to do it first. If you can't achieve everything that you're trying to do with just purely camber gain, then you can try caster. You can also just try changing your static values as well. Your static camber angle is going to affect everything all the way across the board as well. So hope that helps explain it. I know it can get a little complicated to do in words, but sometimes the visualization of it can help. That's it for now.